Hello, and welcome back to Intentional Living with Eli. It's good to be back. It's been quite the hiatus, I guess you could call it. Took a little break, not really a break, honestly. Me and my brother Peter, we started a new podcast called Generational Heat. If you have not checked that out already, please feel free to go check it out. It would definitely be mean a lot to us to get some feedback on that, and any ideas, anybody who possibly could come on. The difference between Generational Heat and intentionally living with Eli is, which I'll get into some other stuff about that later, but the difference is Generational Heat, I want to use it as a platform, where we want to use it as a platform to be able to tell people stories and bring people on and have these different types of conversations in a group, whether it be 2, 3, 4 people, and really just get deep into conversation. Having specific individuals who have a story to tell, who have a message to send, who are doing something in some type of influential way, who are having an impact in some type of way. We want to bring those people on as generational talent, generational heat, once in a type generation type people, who are local, people who just want a story, who want to tell their story, people who want to help others, people who just want to have conversations and have deep, meaningful conversations, and just use that platform to not just grow ourselves, but use it to grow everyone and each other as a community, as a generation, as a movement. And that's where kind of that name stemmed from, Generational Heat, which I talk about in one of the other episodes. So definitely go ahead and check it out. But yeah, and so the difference between that and Intentionally Living with Eli is, my whole goal was to use Intentionally Living with Eli as more like a sit down talk, just like one-on-one, just me and the audience, as a Mel Robbins podcast does, and eventually, periodically have guests on, depending who it is, depending the kind of the niche it follows. But if not, then it's always welcome that Generational Heat, where me and P are co-hosting. So it's definitely opens up for more conversation, different perspectives, different experiences, different, just life experiences. But yeah, so it's we opened up Generational Heat. We've got 2 episodes out. We had a third episode. 2 episodes. We have the second episode coming out soon. Third, we had an episode that was completely malfunctioned. The audio completely lost it. So it just kind of put me and my progress on being able to focus on intentionally living with Eli to the side, just to be able to get that caught up to date. But it's good to be back. A lot of it's funny because a lot of the times I want to kind of transition the podcast into more like this is actually the first time I've sat down with no notes. Like, I have my note here, like my notebook. Go be great. So thank you to the special person who gave me that. But this is the first time I ever sat down with no notes. At least for Intentionally Live with Eli, which only has like 3-4 episodes out anyways. But still, it was the first time I kind of sat down. I didn't do any research. I just wanted to kind of sit down and talk, which is kind of was the whole purpose at first. But it was very interesting. It was very neat to be able to kind of follow a theme, which I still want to do, and kind of talk about and break down a concept, a philosophy, a way of living, or just kind of a mindset, and breaking it down, bringing the facts, bringing the science behind it, that's going to be able to help us live each other, me and you guys, live more intentionally. So the whole purpose of the pod. But with that, this is the first time I just kind of sat down, just kind of wanted to talk. There's no notes, just go off top of the head. I felt right in the moment. It was a weekend that I just kind of wanted to refresh, regroup, recover, and kind of set the tone for the week. And I'm like, what a perfect way to start than just sitting down, getting on camera, and just talking with you guys. So, I would ask you guys how you are, but you're on the other side. But it's rarely, and it's not like in a very humbling way, someone just kind of with the mindset I have. And people just know who I am, especially people who see me just not on social media, but a day-to-day basis, very much know how I am, and how kind of I feel like I'm a little ball of like motivation, a little ball of like, a little ball of, I tried to explain it in the other podcast, and it was just kind of like Kindle, I guess you could call it. Just kind of like wildfire, like dry wood that just sparks up. And it's so contagious that it just runs fast. And that's just kind of how I live my life. Like anything and everything kind of just inspires me to keep going because I'm so focused and so motivated on achieving and setting out to do what I've always wanted to do. And all the goals and dreams I have in mind. But with that, I never really get asked, how am I? And it's something I've talked about with a few people. And, I always ask people how they are, sit down and want to talk to them, this and this. But like usually when that conversation is going on, I really want to focus on the person. I really want to focus on how I can help, even if it's just listening. And if they wanted advice, how I'd be able to advise them and just kind of like understand where they're coming from and be able to take that and reflect on that and be able to help them, even if it's just sending a message or like a reel or like something I saw on social media, just be able to, kind of boost them up and just kind of like help them find their way, whatever that may be. But I rarely get asked, how am I? And even if I do in that conversation, I try to kind of put it to the side, depending who it is, and just focus on the other person. As as people know, I can be very confident, but I don't really like talking about myself. I like talking about what I'm doing and the progress and the journey that I'm going down, but I don't like to talk about myself. With that, going down this road, I've noticed, and as I'm still learning, because it's hard. I'm trying to create something from nothing. I haven't had those the role models, or like some kind of like not an icon, but like a mentor, someone to look up to in the specific profession and like kind of the business and the brand I'm trying to build that I'm going down, and just kind of that path and that journey. Because I have plenty of people I look up to, plenty of people who have mentored me, who've taught me so much in my life, but not in this specific profession and not going down this path. So it's hard to kind of be understood. It's hard to also figure it out by yourself. Like I try to take as much as I can, watch as many motivational videos, inspirational videos. I watch TED Talks, seminars, conferences, keynote speeches, and I try to grasp as much information as I can on a daily basis, reading books, audiobooks, all this stuff, podcasts. But it's hard. It's hard. It's a different type of journey than what other people's journeys in their lives look like. And the fact that I have to create something from nothing and doing it with the purpose and the goals and the people I have in mind. Sometimes it's hard being understood. Sometimes it's hard, not knowing if you're making the right decision or not, but trying to trust your instinct and trust the journey and trust the routine that you set in place to be able to provide you that progress, that everyday kind of like dedication to the grind and to exactly what I wanted to achieve. So with that, it's hard being understood, but it's also a very, very lonely path. Like I can say I'm definitely happy, and I always say like I'm thriving. Like someone asks like, how are you doing? Like, oh, I'm thriving, I'm doing great. But just because someone's thriving doesn't mean they're completely content at times. Like feelings come and go, moments come and go, emotions come and go. And as happy and content I get from the satisfaction of completing the goals that I set out to achieve and doing what I'm doing, it can get very lonely at times. You can't do what everyone else is doing and expect different results. You have to kind of dedicate yourself to this. And, it's a commitment. It's a lifelong commitment. Sometimes like, I go out with friends, I'll go like one day and I'll just take the rest of the other 2 days in the weekend or something to just kind of get back to the grind and get back to doing what I'm doing and get back on track, set myself up for the week. And it's tough, man. It is tough sometimes because you just, sometimes you just sit around just like feeling lonely. Not that I'm alone, not that I'm sad, but sometimes you can feel very lonely going down this path. And you have to remind yourself that no matter like how you feel sometimes, you have to keep pushing, you have to keep doing stuff. Because like me going out hanging with my friends 3 days on the weekend, going out to party or going out to drink this and this, hanging out till late, isn't that's not gonna allow me to pay for a house for my parents. That's not gonna allow me to contribute to their mortgage. That's not gonna allow me to take care of them and my loved ones. That's not gonna allow me to set up my business, and that's not going to pay for my expenses. That's not going to pay for my schooling. That's not going to put the time in for the education, the courses, and like the math, and my degrees and all these things that I'm currently working on to be able to create this dream that I have. And it can get very lonely at times. And I was thinking about it to myself this past few days, but I was like, like it's fine, because like I have a solid group, and it's so important to have a solid group of people around you that are gonna keep you afloat and gonna hold you accountable to the standard that you hold yourself. Um, but at the same time of them holding me accountable, they also make sure I'm good and check in, and they know when I'm not feeling good. And sometimes they'll demand that I have to go with them somewhere, because I'm like, they know how I am. Like, I just rather just stay home and not go out. And sometimes it's just to go watch a movie one time. And it was like they demanded I go, and I went, and I didn't want to go. I was tired. I worked all day, and it ended up being one of my favorite movies all time. And I had a great time. Um, which was the John Wick 4 movie, if anyone's watching, because that was phenomenal. Just so well done. But yeah, and it's it's tough, but it's important to kind of keep the vision and the goal in mind. And when that goal and that vision and its foundation is rooted in a deeper purpose, it's easy to get back on track, because you know why you're doing what you're doing. And we've talked about in previous episodes, like finding your purpose, like, understanding why you do what you want to do, and like, and just kind of going through the journey, even if you don't know, but trying to figure it out and let it find you as well as you pursuing it. But on that note, regardless, it doesn't make the journey like any easier, because sometimes I'll just post like all the motivational stuff. I'm going on a walk and I saw like a turkey, like, which that was a very good quote. Whoever did see that, I was actually like pretty gassed like when I like kind of read it back, and I just kind of watched it, and just kind of the quote on, like, if you haven't seen it, go check out my Instagram, do the reel. But it was saying, when you stay true to yourself, just like that turkey, when you stay true to yourself, just like that turkey, when you stay true to yourself, even a simple turkey can look like an eagle at its highest points. And I thought that was a pretty great quote, and it was a really good like analogy. And so you see those things, you see the motivational posts, so like the stories and whatever, but you don't see the work that gets put in, weekend, just the whole weekend being by yourself, almost 2-3 days by yourself, just in your apartment, just working, grinding, reading, studying, trying to do this like this on a Sunday morning, just trying to do a podcast first thing in the morning. Like, it's not easy, and you don't get to see all that, but that's what makes the journey that much more worth it, and the rewards that much more savoring, because not everyone else gets to see it, but I get to understand when I achieve these goals and these small wins, or even the big wins, the work I put in, and the effort and the time, and sweat, blood, tears, like everyone says, and to see it pay off, which one day will pay off on a larger scale, that's what makes it worth it. But it doesn't make it any easier, because it doesn't stop there, because once you achieve one goal, you have to move on to another. Once you peak one mountain, you have to peak the other. It's not, there's no just kind of settling. I don't know, I think you can see right there. I can post a picture on it down below, but basically I have a portrait there of a man, a mountain climber, who has just peaked the mountain completely by himself. He just peaked one mountain, and then he's standing off looking into the distance at another mountain. And it's just kind of symbolic of, like, it's a solo man, it's a one-man journey. Your journey is completely unique to you, and as much as you can have the support, you can have a good group, a good support system, a good group of friends, a close circle. But it's, at the end of the day, it's your journey, and it's your journey alone. And once you peak one mountain, it doesn't stop there. The journey doesn't stop just there. And if hey, at the end of the day, if that's what you wanted to do and you wanted to settle and you thought you were content with that life you have, then that's okay. But not all of us are like that. And I think that's my favorite thing I probably have in this house because it's so symbolic. And sometimes yesterday I felt like kind of like lonely, and I was just kind of sitting here like writing a recommendation letter for someone, and I'm just kind of like watching the Creed 2 movie because I think these Creed movies are so inspiring. And I'm like looking up like retreats and all this stuff, and I'm just sitting there looking at that portrait, and I'm like you really are living the true meaning behind that portrait, and it's just the beginning. It's far from even close to scratching the surface of what I want to do, but it's definitely establishing and creating a foundation that's going to allow me to grow and build this thing that I have in mind and that I'm envisioning, day and night. But regardless of how you feel, sometimes you just have to, you're supposed to do what you're required to do. And sometimes it's not even for you. Sometimes it's for the betterment of the people around you, for the betterment of the society, the community, your family, your friends. And that's a concept I really wanted to bring up for a while now. And it's a concept of arte, which if like you follow me on social media, you probably saw that I just recently got a tattoo on my neck. I probably can just put it down if it's not very visible, but it stands for, in ancient Greek, it's called arete. And arete stands for excellence, or excellence of character. And I got it because it's a Greek philosophy that it's not very much mentioned in the Greek scriptures besides once or twice, I believe. But it was a concept, like not saying they were specifically following this like philosophy, like this term of living their life by these terms. I think it's only once or twice, and I think it's in the Odyssey, the Iliad and the Odyssey, um, Odyssey and Iliad, and some other book, but it references the concept of arte as excellence. Um, and what it means by that is, or excellence of character. And what it means by that is basically one, the living with arte or by arte, no matter what you do, is basically living and fulfilling one's life purpose to the most excellent form. It's basically just the fulfillment of one's purpose, of one's fulfillment, of one's role in life, and it's doing it to the best possible capacity. It's and everyone in the society, no matter who they were they a farmer and they grew, like vegetation and they have livestock, or if they were a warrior that went out to fight, or if they were like a governor, or someone in like a systematic position, or even, just being a father, a mother, a scholar, whatever it was, they took that role that they had to play in life and they try to play and fulfill that role to the best of their abilities, because what they all had in mind was the betterment of society. They weren't doing it for themselves, but they were doing it for the betterment of society and for the advancement and the progress of the society as a whole. And that's why the Greek Empire flourished so much, because everyone was in constant harmony of what way to live their lives, and by what means, and with what goal in mind. And it was that fulfillment of one's purpose. And that's kind of a lifestyle and a philosophy that I really want to get into, and I really want to apply to my brand that I'm creating and my business that I'm creating, which I'll go more into details later. But arte is such a deep concept that can be used and applied in so many ways, and there's so many different definitions. Not just one definition, it's a lifestyle. It's not a word, you can't define it, but you have to live it. And that's why I kind of put this on my body, because I wanted to engrave it in what I stood for and have it as a reminder that I need to hold myself to a certain standard no matter how I may feel or whatever's going on around me. But it's being able to flourish in the midst of chaos and whatever's going around, and being able to be a person of example and lead by example, because I've dedicated myself to fulfill my role and what I believe is my purpose in life to its most excellent form or state. And yeah, so that's really what the concept of Arete is. And it's something I want to build my leadership brand, my leadership development brand off, because it also goes into what the four qualities a leader should have in those four cardinal virtues. And it just goes really deep into it. And I want to make an episode on it and just kind of like have the details, point by point, to be able to kind of explain this concept and this philosophy to you all, because it had such a huge impact on me when I first realized what it was, and it first came across my plate. But with Arete, I think it's something that we as a society should begin to practice, because if you look at the way everything is now, even the smallest stuff matters. And my dad was telling me the other day, we were just having a conversation, and he was just giving me some advice on something, which I won't go too much into, but he was talking about how the reason society is the way it is now is not just because of the big things that matter. It's sometimes the small things that we don't think that matter too much, and those small things start to accumulate and they contribute to the state in which our society is in right now. It is right now. So some things don't seem as bad as they were before, and it's very much more acceptable. But doesn't mean because something's acceptable or something became normalized doesn't mean it's right. And it's through those small little contributions that we start to think it doesn't matter, but it starts to have that snowball effect where it does begin to matter, and it does begin to have an impact on a society, on society, but also when we apply it to our individual personal lives, it also has an impact on us. And I thought it was such a deep topic and such a deep concept that it just had me reflecting the whole weekend, and just kind of wanting to better myself and hold myself accountable to even the smallest things, and hold my life to a certain standard where any type of contributions I'm making are always going to be for the betterment of society and the community that's around me and for the people around me. But also, if I were to make a mistake, to learn from it and be better for next time, for when that occasion arises again, that situation arises again, the opportunity arises again, to be better, to make the change and set that example for the other person. And that's going to begin to have a snowball effect on the good contributions accumulating into something big and into the advancement and the betterment of society, so we as a whole can be better, because we need to do better. But with that, I think it's so important that we really take time to reflect on the life we want to leave for our children, the life we want to leave for our family, our friends, the legacy we want to leave behind, and just kind of the state of our little world, not on the 8 billion people on the planet, but our little world and our little community and our little tribe, and kind of start reflecting what we want to get out of it and what we want for people to get out of from their experience and their interactions on this planet while we're around. And I think it's so important that we really take time to reflect on and just constantly check in with who you are and like where you're at in life and the people around you, most importantly, because sometimes, and that's something I also want to get into, because I was reading a book, or I was listening to a speech by Simon Sinek, and he was talking about there's so many book sections, there's so many books, there's so many courses, so many speeches on personal development and self-help, but there's no books or development and book sections on not self-help but helping others. And like kind of going down the path that I realized I've been reading multiple books and different things, and it really comes down to is, as when we live in a society, I always say, like, stop worrying about what everybody else is doing and worry about yourself. You live your life, do what you want to do. But at the same time, when it comes to the people around us and the people that matter, or the things that matter, even in its smallest contribution, in the smallest ways, we have to begin to realize that by helping others, we are going to help ourselves and make everything easier for ourselves. Because when you help others and you create that bond, and you create that sense of trust and that sense of reliability and credibility with another person in that relationship that you have with them, you're going to be able to create that trust that you're doing this for them because they would do the same for you. You're gonna give this to them without any expectations, without actively seeking a reward for what your contribution or like your help, and not looking for that immediate gratification. But when you do something to help others, you're gonna help yourself, because you know they'll be there for you when you need it. They'll have your back when you need it. And that's where I feel like, as a society and as a community as a whole, we lack, is that everyone, when really push comes to shove, every man for themselves. And as a society, we really need to start checking up on others, because, like, it's a whole thing we've seen before, like mental health, like especially men's mental health, all these things, like people, and it's a sad reality nowadays, but people aren't going to check up on you unless you check up on them. Sometimes people are just going to like think about themselves first, selfishly, and they're going to want to eat first and put food on their plate, and not worry about what's left for you. And as a society, I think sometimes we, as for certain occasions, but as a society, we need to start believing and living the art of eating last, because it's hard to eat last. It's hard to worry about other people and to want to help other people without instant gratification, without a reward, without any expectations, and being able to put them first and want to help them and make sure they're fed before yourself. And that's not an easy thing to do. But in the smallest ways, when we begin to approach things as a tribe, like we're in this together. You know what I'm saying? Like when shit hits the fan and push comes to shove, and people start showing their true colors, where we should be able to rely on the person next to us. We shouldn't have to be worried that they're going to stab us in the back. We shouldn't have to be worried that they'll let us go, and they're going to run off and throw us first in the fire just to save themselves. And I think that's what the concept of arte kind of reflects on and kind of touches, which we'll get on in another episode. But it's just the art of fulfilling one's role for the betterment of society and the advancement of society, and being able to lead amongst chaos and amongst troublesome times. And with that, to be able to do such a thing, it all starts with creating a foundation and relationship with people. As human beings, that our animal instinct is to herd together and to be a tribe and to have each other's back, because if it wasn't for that, our ancestors never would have made it out alive. We would not have been here today if it wasn't for that. So sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't need anyone, like, I'll do everything on my own. Like, sometimes I can't even have that mentality, and it's not the healthiest mindset, because it's in our DNA. It's literally transcribed in there to rely on other people to feel safe, to feel trust, and to feel that to feel comfortable. And that sense of safety is by the relationships and the bonds and the trust that we have with the people around us, knowing that they're going to be there for us, and we're as a whole, as a tribe, we are going to survive together. No matter what predator may come, or whatever damage may come down the road trying to harm us, we'll be able to rely on one another. And it all starts with building those trusts and those bonds and those relationships with people. And sometimes that just starts with just asking someone how they are, just to kind of like wrap it around full circle. It's just asking your neighbor sometimes, and killing your ego to be able, and we've said this a lot, and I want to get into an episode about it, but killing your ego to be able to listen to someone, and not just listen expecting, like, and thinking to answer, to put your 2 cents, to not let this conversation be driven or be taken away, but killing your ego and being able to listen to someone without already thinking. And my coworkers know how that I already talked to them about this, but because I had to go through the process and I'm still learning how to do it. But killing your ego and being able to listen to someone without having to put your 2 cents, because sometimes, like, especially I've always had a bad habit of it. Sometimes we want to put our 2 cents in so we don't lose control of the conversation. We want to make it about ourselves, or tell a personal experience. And sometimes when you really reflect and you think about it, and you decide to shut your brain down and just shut up sometimes in your mind, and just listen to what someone's saying, and just generally listening and interacting and connecting with this person on how they are and how they're feeling, it is what's going to start the movement and the trend and the change in the circle around us, in the community around us, in our tribe, in the world, and as a society as a whole. But it all starts with just ask someone how they are. Ask someone how they've been. If you haven't heard from someone in a while, if you thought about them, just reach out. Sometimes I overthink and I'm like, I don't want to bother the person, but just reach out. See how someone's doing. Send them a message like, hey, hope you're doing good. Hope you have a great day. Good morning. I hope you slept well. I hope you enjoy your weekend, or go kill this week. Like whatever it is. But stop living and interacting with your tribe with expectations, and just begin to do things out of unconditional love and out of an unconditional interest, where you don't receive anything. And it's only by then that we're going to start to seeing change, start building these relationships, start building this trust with people, and being able to feel safe. And that's what's going to cause us to thrive as a whole. That's what's going to cause us to prosper as a whole. Because if there's one bad potato in the bag, it's going to rot the rest of the potatoes. And I've talked about this before. It's one thing in one bad batch can cause everything else to rot. So like, why not us take the time and check on people how they're doing? Why not us take the time and really stop completely living for ourselves and live for something bigger and for something greater? And you will begin to see little small changes that are going to accumulate into, and snowball effect into the change that you wanted to see, that maybe you didn't expect it would be possible. But it all starts with the smallest things, down to just the simple question of how are you, and genuinely listening and meaning. And sometimes I'll tell someone like, how are you? And I'm like, no, seriously, like, how are you doing? Like, how you been? I've seen you probably been stressed out. Oh, you haven't been the same. And it's really when you sit down and start connecting with someone that you're able to build those trustworthy, like lifelong lasting relationships. And person by person, that's going to have a snowball effect, where if you were able to do that once a day for 365 days, and you did that for 10 years, that's over, 30,000 or so, whatever people you affected, like in a lifetime, and that's just like 10 years. Think about your 20, 30, 40, 50s, 60s, 70s, But that was just kind of want to talk about, just kind of get things off my head today with this episode, because I think myself, I've had the thought in mind about just someone asking how I am, and at the end of the day, like, I'm always going to give the best possible answer, but I want to keep it as raw and as authentic with you guys. And I don't want to like just put the good out there and never the bad, and just kind of seem like everything's perfect and like, like it's a perfect life. Let's all push together, motivation. Like, that's not, it's life. We have our ups and downs. We have the weekends that we just want to sit down and recover, refresh. We have the mornings that we get up and we don't want to do anything, but at the end of the day, staying true to who you are and knowing your purpose and building those relationships and that community and that tribe that you feel safe in, that's what's going to cause you to prosper in whatever you do. But I'd rather not lie to you guys and keep it like, like everything's perfect, because it's not, and sometimes some of us in our position, we like to put, someone who wants to do something or be some type of, have some type of influence. We only put the good out there on social media, and like, that person's thriving, which I always say I am, and I'm happy and I love my life, but it can be lonely sometimes. I can feel misunderstood. I can feel crazy sometimes. And I'm like, no, sometimes besides these people in my life, and even sometimes with these people, I'm going to be very, very misunderstood. And the only person that's truly going to be able to know who I am and understand how I'm feeling and where I'm coming from is myself. And I know that's not the truth, but it's thoughts that one battles with every day, every day, at least once a week, and because it gets hard, it gets exhausting. It's mentally draining, even though you have a great week and you're constantly thriving, you're working hard, you're grinding, you're being successful, getting these small wins, doesn't mean that's gonna, that's only temporarily. That's why you continue to do this, to continue to keep that momentum going. But it's those little small wins and those trusting, lasting relationships that you build. It's what's going to pick you up. It's going to pick you up when you feel down. It's going to get you out the ditch. It's going to get you out of the gutter, and I think it's really important that we kind of look today and look into the week of just asking someone, that we haven't talked to in a while, or someone that we see all the time, and just asking them, like, how are you? How do you truly feel? And just letting them talk, and getting the most raw, authentic answer out of them possible. So this is Intentionally Living with Eli. This episode will be coming out soon. I will definitely get back to this. I feel like I don't even know what I'm doing, honestly. I'm just talking. It's been so long. So I'm definitely looking back, getting excited to get back into the groove of things and just kind of running with this. But until next time, go be great.